Hi, Nikki. We've started the live streaming. We're just waiting for that to be confirmed. And we're waiting for one more, Director Mack, to log in.
Great, thank you.
Chair, I'm just going to go off of video here for a second and see if I can get a hold of Director Mack to be sure he has the call-in number.
I can no longer see anybody. Can you guys see me? Or hear me?
No, we cannot. We can hear you.
Hear you.
Okay. I've been having Wi-Fi issues this morning. Zoom, I had to go off video this morning. My video's on right now. I could see myself, but I can't see any of you. Kristen, I'm going to log out and I'm going to leave the meeting and log back in.
I see you now, Mike.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm. And I can just see you, but just like
can
a
hear me?
still. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
I can hear you too, Mike.
Yeah, I don't know. It went. It got disconnected, and when it reconnected, all of you were black, and I couldn't hear it. So, and I keep getting an unstable internet signal. So I don't know if I do. If it doesn't allow me to stay on video, do you want me to pass the chair or to Ryan? Is that easier in that event? I mean, we'll try and go ahead now. It seems to be okay for the time being, but Melanie, would you like me to pass the chair? Is that easier?
Yeah, for sure. If that way, if you drop, well, actually, we need all of you. We're missing Director Mac, but yeah, that would be great.
Okay.
Should I give Russell a call at his home or?
I did try both his home number where there was no answer and his mobile number, and I've left him a message. So hopefully he joins us.
I know they've been having phone issues up there and.
Okay. You want me to open and get going? Can you hear me? Wow, this is going well so
Yes.
far.
Yes, we can hear you a little bit. It looks like Kristen was trying to respond, but she's muted.
Sorry about that. We can have you start and turn over the chair to the vice chair whenever you need to, Chair Richmond, or we could have the vice chair start.
Okay, let me open the meeting and get things going here, and hopefully Russell joins us, and we'll see how it goes. So if you're good to go, Kristen, I will call to order this PVUS meeting for January 13th. And we'd like to recognize that collectively we are on the unceded traditional territories of the Litwa Nation. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda, please?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second, Director Kennett. Any opposed? Motion carries. So we have delegations starting at 1:30, so we'll jump ahead to item number 4, which is the consent agenda. Would anybody like to pull anything or move the consent agenda as presented?
Move as presented, Chair.
Seconded by Kenneth. Any opposed? Motion carries. Any business arising from the minutes? Seeing none, we'll go to item number 6, staff reports, SLRD CAO report. Ms. Elmer.
Thank you, Chair. Nothing today.
Okay, there's a request to reschedule the meeting under your verbal report for April 7th.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Appreciate that. Yes, it's because the EA forum, the electoral area forum, and the LGLA session that UBCM organizes got moved from February to the beginning of April. So that was the reason why we were looking at a reschedule for that meeting. So if that was agreeable to the committee members, then that would be wonderful if we could get a resolution in that regard.
Okay, works for me. Would somebody like to make that resolution?
I'll make that motion to reschedule the April 7th meeting.
Second by Director Kennett. Okay. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Village Pemberton CEO report. Ms. Gilmore.
Hello, I do not have anything today. Thank you.
Great.
So, hi, everyone. We've lost the chair, so we'll just recess until we can get him back. Oh, here he is.
And so once again, I got disconnected and I'm reconnected, but I can't see any of you.
We can hear you, Mike.
We can hear you though.
Okay, I'm going to, until this clears up, I'm going to pass the chair over to Director Zant. We're on 6.3, the PDIF reports.
Okay.
We'll go from there.
Thank you, Director Richmond. So in regards to the PDF report, does anybody want to have a discussion about what was presented in the report, or is there a motion to receive as presented?
Would staff like to
Would staff like to report on the
look, you're
PDF
back.
fund report?
So through the chair, my name is Philippa Campbell. I'm Project and Research Coordinator for the SLRD. This report is just to bring to the committee a progress report from one of the PDIF recipients for the Wellness Almanac, which is a long-term recipient of PDIF funding. Lisa Richardson will be attending item 3.4 to provide a verbal update as well. So this is the written report, which we requested in November, and she will also be providing a verbal report, and you'll be able to ask questions at that time.
Sorry, Philippa, I don't mean to cut you off, but we've lost the chair, so we've lost quorum. So we'll just recess for a moment. Thanks.
Okay. I can see.
Oh, he's back.
Sorry, I can see everyone and hear everyone, unless you were referring to Director Richmond.
Thanks, Vice Chair Zant. He left my screen and then he's
Okay.
back now. Okay, sorry about that.
Sorry, Ms. Campbell, please continue if you can.
Not a problem. I think I had just about finished there is an opportunity to ask questions about the contents of the progress report when the Wellness Almanac presents later in the meeting. I am happy to take any questions.
Okay. Are there any questions from the other PVUS committee members on the staff report in regards to the PDIF fund?
Not
Seeing,
at this time.
sorry, Ms. Kennett or Director Kennett, go ahead.
No, I don't have anything to comment on.
Okay, thank you. So seeing no comments or questions at this point, should we have a motion to receive? Okay, can I have a motion to receive? I can see everybody. So if somebody wants to,
I'll make that motion.
okay, and second motion or second? We'll go with Director Richmond. All opposed? Motion carries. So moving on to, can we move on to 6.4, Ms. Clark? Okay. 6.4, direction request for PDIF fund application for the Pemberton Animal Wellbeing Society, page 49 in your agendas. Is there staff presenting on that?
Do we want to wait? Do we want to wait until after their delegation?
I think
to
that
look at
sounds,
this?
that sounds good, sure. So do we need a motion to just defer till they get on and then comment afterwards? Or
Let's just move.
didn't quite catch you
We
there.
don't need a motion.
Okay, thank you. So we'll just pause on that for now.
6.4. Oh, boy.
Okay, 6.4.
Let's,
And then if we're going to hold on 6.4, do we want to talk about 6.5? Will we have enough time to go through that, or do we want to wait? Ms. Helmer?
Yes, Chair, I think we will. And I could admit Ms. LaFrance, Director LaFrance, if that's okay.
Perfect, thank you. Hello, Ms. LaFrance. How are you this morning, or this afternoon, rather?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Excellent. I'm good.
Good.
Ms. Helmer says that you're going to present on the draft budget highlights.
Sorry?
Ms.
you
Helmer
repeat that?
mentioned. Sorry, Ms. Helmer mentioned you were going to present.
Well, just before you are two budgets that were completed, and the delegations are to happen, I believe, at 1:30. It's the Pemberton and District Museum Society, Archive Society, and the Pemberton District Library. These two budgets are just coming forward because there was an increases requested. And so just to get those ones first, as there was a delay with getting the rest of the budgets ready in time for this meeting, but they will be ready for the February meeting. And yeah, so the budgets are prepared as per the request from these societies. It's simply just a one-line item that we send in August to the societies for the year. So not much to discuss, but let me know if there's any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the committee prior to the delegations? So seeing none, Ms. Clark, what will the next steps be here? Do we wait for our delegations?
Thanks, Director Zant. I believe we can just receive these budgets.
Okay. So at this point, we'll be looking for a motion to receive the budgets that are presented. Ms. Kennett,
I'll make a motion.
thank you. Director Richmond. I don't know if anybody else can hear Director Richmond. I know sometimes we will second the motion. I'll second the motion. Call the question. Nikki, are you able to? I would just hate to call the question without hearing if Mike has any issues with that. Go ahead, Ms. Clerk.
Thanks, Chair. We have lost Director Richmond,
Okay.
so we will wait for him as we've lost quorum. Thanks.
Then Ms. Gomer, go ahead.
Oh, we can't. Oh, so
He's advised he's going to try calling in.
Okay, thank you.
perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. I appreciate you keeping me in line.
I think I see him. I'm admitting the person phoning in.
That would be me.
Hello, Director Richmond.
Hi. So I'm going to go with this because that was really frustrating.
Okay, so do you want to start over then? Is that your suggestion?
No, you carry on. I know we were just receiving the budget, and then I got lost after that. So I'm not sure where you are.
So where we ended was, and Ms. Clark can please correct me if I'm wrong, we were just going to vote on it, but I wanted to make sure that the vote was carried out properly. So at this point, I'll call the vote for any opposed. Hearing none, motion carries.
Thank you.
So then, can we carry on through 7 and then go to our delegations, or do we want to just wait till 1:30? Number 7 is only correspondence for action, and I didn't see any, so can we move past that? And then are we just waiting for 1:30 then, Ms. Clark?
Thanks, Chair. We can do, I believe we can finish off everything. So correspondence for action, there is none. No late business that I'm aware of.
Thank you.
Notice of motion.
So just for my own knowledge, I'll move through it here just so I get a little bit more experience and share here. So if I remember correctly, does anybody have any decisions on late business that we want to bring up? Hearing none. Any decisions on late business? Director's notice of motion. Okay, that's it until we get our delegations. Is that correct, Ms. Clark?
That's correct. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Does anybody have a good, clean joke they want to share? Oh, take a lesson from the UBCM.
I have one for my nephew.
Go for it.
Where does the snowman keep his money? In the snowbank.
No.
Had to do it.
All right. Do you know what 50 Cent did when he was hungry? 58.
It's a good one.
I can keep going, but hear the groans. Come on, Mike. You've been a dad for a long time. You must have a good one.
His dad's never been known for his clean humor.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Can I assume we've had no luck reaching Director Mack?
That is correct, Chair. And I do have a staff member who's continuing to attempt to do that.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Helmer.
I know he's had a lot of problems with his road access and,
I bet.
having to put on, chains, all 4 chains on his truck and
Oh, wow.
so on to get up to the ranch there. So he may be having transportation issues with all of this melt and snow and so on.
Yeah, I know there's been a few makeshift skating rinks on the roads, which has cause some havoc between here and Whistler.
Chair, it looks like we have all the members of the first delegation in the waiting room now, if you would like me to admit them.
Excellent. Yes, please, Ms. Helmer.
Thank you.
Hello, Ms. Madigan. Looks like we're just waiting for one more of your colleagues.
Okay.
There we go. Well, thank you for joining us today. You're here to present for the Pemberton District Museum Archive Society.
I am.
Please go ahead. Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much. We just wanted to start by thanking local government and the citizens of Pemberton for their support since 2006. And despite the perilous times the pandemic's caused for many museums across the country, the Pemberton Museum completed a long-term capital construction project in 2021. This adds 2 additional spaces to the site and completes the pioneer village vision that was established by the museum founders in 1982. These spaces provide additional public space for programs and events, presentations, and exhibits, and we believe this will have long-term community benefit. We reopened to the public on May 25th, and we operated 7 days a week through the summer. And thanks to many grant opportunities for youth employment, we created 7 full-time positions and 3 part-time positions. And we made many small improvements to the site, thanks to this army of youth. We also upgraded computer hardware and software to ensure the system was secure from malicious attacks. We added additional security cameras to the site. And after the loss of the 2 museums in Lytton, we made sure that we had an offsite backup of all the museum's digital assets. We also continue to work with local St'át'imc nations on repatriation of cultural objects of significance, as these were requested by Lillooet Nation in 2018. We also signed the BC Museum Association's repatriation call to action, which calls for the return of all ancestral human remains held in publicly funded institutions, and in addition to changes to museum policies. So far, we've repatriated 15 items. I need to point out that 2 of the houses on the museum site are First Nations. One is from Darcy, the Sam Jim House is from Lillooet. We met with Chief Joseph and Chief Dean in the spring, and we continue to work towards repatriation of more items. We also have items in collection that are not even from the area. For example, we have a basket from Lytton, and after the Lytton fire, we reached out to the band, and John Haugen, the counselor, gave us a lot of additional information about that basket. And they're very interested in retrieving that basket at some point in the future. Just going to the financials for the museum. In 2010, the museum had assets of $169,000, and we operated 6 months of the year on $88,000. In 2019, pre-pandemic, we had assets of $513,000, and we operated on $126,000. So in that time period, we increased assets 200% since 2010, while our operating expenses only increased about 30%. We've since added 2 more buildings to the site in 2021 that increases our assets another $150,000. So the tight management of operating costs is really due to the efforts of management and staff to maintain and operate the museum on all fronts. We don't outsource very much at the museum. We mow our own lawns, we clean our own windows, etc. We're the requisition request for August to July 31st, 2022 to 2023, we're anticipating to be $150,000. This would cover operations into early December, including a new staffing plan that will leverage the site and its assets for the benefit of the community. The wages are supported by youth employment grants and graduate internship grants. The anticipated deferred revenues, Annie had asked me to forecast this in November, so it was $78,000. And that's what would cover the operating plan from January until August of this year, $78,000. Now, I just had a question because I wasn't sure what the museum's requisition limit was, because there were 2 different numbers stated. On the budget template, the limit was set at $234,000, but in the agenda package, there's 2 numbers stated there, $106,000 and $295,000. I just wanted to clarify what the requisition maximum was for the museum.
I can answer that for you. So it depends on the assessment rule that's in play at the time. So the service establishment bylaw lays out the maximum requisition based on either a dollar figure or an assessment amount per 1,000. So with this Pemberton Museum service, you have both. You have a dollar figure or the assessment base rate per 1,000, and it's the higher of that is the maximum.
Okay.
So with the new 2022 completed rule that just came out in January 1st, I believe, it's just the first week of January, these budget sheets show those 2022 assessments, and so as updated your maximum requisition, which is now $295,393.
Okay, thanks, Suzanne.
Thank you, Ms. LaFrance. Thank you, Ms. Madigan.
I had to finish here. So I wanted to say we keep the requisition monies in a separate bank account. So we've just come through into 2022. So I can tell you, we have $114,000 in operating funds. So that's $37,000 more than that 78 that we require to operate on. But I needed to point out that through the capital project, we've determined we have an urgent need to upgrade the main hydro feed to the whole site to meet safety requirements and to ensure that our electrical service doesn't fail. The estimated cost of this upgrade is $50,000. We're going to need to do that right away in March or April. So when we did our budget request, the board decided not to request any capital assistance from PVUS for this project. Instead, we would use monies in reserve in the operational account and our own fundraising efforts to get this done in the spring. And I just wanted to outline the grants that we received last year. We received $19,000 in summer student grants. We received $127,000 from the Community Economic Recovery Infrastructure Program for the capital projects. We received $37,000 for an access ramp and access door for the new schoolhouse, which will be a public programming space. And we received $20,000 from the Area C Anemone Fund. We also received $10,000 from Heritage Canada for COVID emergency operational funding. So that is part of what drove the extra monies in our operating account, because those monies were specifically for operating. That's it. Thank you. Unless you have any other questions about the budget submitted.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the committee?
I just
Yeah.
have a comment. Thank you, Nikki, for really tweaking your budget. It seems like you guys are working very, very hard, and good luck with your hydro project.
Thank you.
We had a little tour there, and yeah, that's critical that gets fixed. So it's really good to see that's going to go forward. So good job over there, you guys, under trying circumstances this year. So
Thank you.
Director Richmond, did you have any comment?
No, I'm good. It's been a little challenging to hear, but I think I caught the gist of it. Thank you, Nikki.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Yeah, all I have to say is that I think the work you're doing over there is fantastic. It shows a lot of ingenuity and forward thinking. One question I have is when you mentioned the program for public space where you're having a ramp built, that just out of curiosity, what's your plans for that public programming space? Is that going to be for history lectures or workshops?
Ryan, it will be available for private use. So you could use it for any reason. Community groups could use it. It could be an art gallery. It'll be a display space when it's not being used for other reasons. It can be another training room in town. I don't know if you've tried to book a training room in town. And we just felt it's critical that it's accessible. And we'll link, we've got a paved path through the site. We're going to link that ramp to the paved path with a Moby mat, it's called. So it's a rollout mat that would connect that access path to the ramp whenever, access is required.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I hope some people will definitely book up that space.
Yeah, we want to promote that and make sure that the spaces are being used. And we will work with the local agricultural community on the John Arn cabin, because the displays in there and the information we provide will be about farming and the history of agriculture in the Pemberton Valley. So we want to reach out to our members and local residents to really tell that story. And we have a lot of farming equipment on the site, historic farming equipment.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. With that, Ms. Clerk, are we just needing a motion to receive the delegation report?
Thanks, Chair. We don't need a resolution.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
So we
you.
just carry on to our next delegation. All right, well, thank you to the Pemberton Library, the Pemberton District Museum. We appreciate your report. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have
Thanks,
a good day.
Okay, bye.
Thanks, Nikki.
bye.
Bye.
Chair, we only have one of the two delegates for 3.2 at this time. We can either admit that member, or we do have the delegate. There's only one person for 3.3, and we do have that person in the waiting room. So we could go to 3.3 and come back to 3.2 if that's your preference.
Well, honestly,
Ms. Campbell has her hand up. Maybe she has some information.
Sorry, through the chair, I just wanted to double check on 3.3. There were two people presenting who are currently listed in the agenda. I may have missed an update there. I just want to double check that was also a two-person presentation as well.
Okay, yes, we have both of the people for 3.3, but we only have one of the people for 3.2.
My apologies, I missed that. Thank you very much.
All right, well, at this point, I mean, oh, wait, let's just wait. I can see this note from Kristen that Director Mack is going to be calling in. So let's wait till 1:45, and then we'll admit Miss Gillis and carry on.
Yeah, maybe that just. Okay. All right. All right. Thank you.
I think we have Director Mack joining us right now.
Yeah, hello, I'm here.
Hello, Director Mack. I hear he's been doing some digging out there. It's lots of snow to move. Director Mack, if you can hear us and you were trying to speak, all we heard you say was hello.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jan, did you have something you wanted to say? I saw you put your hand up. You're on mute. There you go.
I was just saying that I couldn't hear Russ, but I could at the end there.
Thank you. Great. Do we want to admit Miss Gillis then?
Okay, we only have Ms. Gillis, but I can certainly admit her. Thank you, Chair.
Hello, Miss Gillis.
Hello,
How are you today?
I'm good. How are you? So I'm
Good.
turn my volume up. Okay.
So we have Ms. Kennett and Director Richmond and Director Mack will join us via phone. And Director Kennett and I are on by video here. So are you ready to present?
I am indeed, yes.
Excellent.
Thank you for inviting me here today just to present the 2022 budget for the Pemberton District Public Library. I think most of you here know me already, but those of you that don't, my name is Emma Gillis, and I am now in my 9th year as the Pemberton Library Director. I know time is short today, so I will address some of the key points from the 2022 budget requisition, and then just provide a brief overview of how the library has been supporting our community over the past year and how it shapes our plans for the future. So from the budget requisition, you will see we've asked for a modest 1.74% increase from 2021. We've tried to keep the requisition as low as possible, but this is to accommodate telephone and internet upgrades that we made, increased cleaning due to COVID, the standard CPI increases, and some insurance increases. We also reduced our collection spending to keep the budget requisition as low as possible, and we'll be using the surplus from 2021 to boost that, which has just come in at about $6,000. So that will be used to supplement the shortfall in our budgeted collection spending in 2022. Those are the key points of the actual budget requisition. So I'll move on to the 2021 in review. If we can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So 2021 saw us midway through our 3-year strategic plan as we continue to explore alternative ways to meet our strategic goals during a pandemic. Our 4 strategic priorities have remained a focus throughout the year, but some of the strategies to achieve those priorities have had to adapt as we live through another pandemic year. The following slides will summarize some of the key ways we've met these strategic priorities over the past year. Next slide, please. So strategic priority number 1 is inspire minds through literacy and learning. We were able to embrace a hybrid model of in-person and online programming as public health orders permitted throughout the year. And as you can see from this slide, we had some really wonderful community partnerships that enabled us to offer a diverse range of programs for the community. Some highlights included the Stewardship Pemberton Local Interest Talks with Veronica Woodruff and the Whistler Pemberton Literacy Partnership's donation of 12 copies of Lillooet Nation's Gifts of the Land and a subsequent talk with Heather Joseph. But we had some really great partnership opportunities that really helped us diversify some of the offerings during the year. Next slide, please. We did embrace other creative approaches to programs and learning opportunities in 2021. We were delighted to resume our summer reading club program with our popular activity passport. We also made adaptations to support families that were both comfortable visiting the library and those that weren't. We had 109 children register for the program, and the Whistler Library also requested permission to use our template for their own program. Other new additions to activities in 2021 included a spring haiku contest, our community book club, and a 21 books in 2021 challenge. We were really excited to resume in-person story times by hosting them outdoors in the summer. We adapted to the changing weather and then were able to move them back indoors by registration in October. We also resumed some other school programming with after-school programming with an outdoor yoga and story walk program and Mr. Loss's popular chess club. In 2021, in total, we offered 112 free programs for children, 63 programs for adults, and 4 outreach programs. Next slide, please. We further expanded our non-traditional lending items in 2021, moving beyond the standard books and DVDs and magazines. The Pemberton Multicultural Network generously donated some kitchen equipment, which we hope to continue to expand on in the coming years. We had a canner, a dehydrator, and a juicer. Thanks also to funding from Scotiabank, we were able to purchase Chromebooks with the priority access for giving the community access to online banking. They're currently available to borrow on request at the library, and the long-term plan is for these to be used for outreach visits and to make a number of them borrowable for use outside of the library. I have also reached out to a number of the band offices to see if they would like to keep one permanently at the office, but with COVID restrictions, not much has happened on that just yet. We also added 3 portable DVD players and 2 Kobo e-readers to the collection. Next slide, please. So the big question, are people still reading? After a subdued 2020 with the focus on ebooks and remote borrowing, 2021 saw our patrons return to borrowing physical materials. 2020 saw a drop in borrowing, largely due to access in browsing in the library and also fears of transmission of COVID from surfaces. So many transitioned to ebooks. However, 2021 saw a 23.6% increase in books being borrowed again. And ebooks continue to grow in popularity, but with circulation at about a quarter of that of physical items, it's a long way from surpassing print at this point. Over the course of the year, we've also had many visitors stranded in Pemberton due to road closures, and they've sought refuge in the library and have received many wonderful comments about the space and the collection. Next slide, please. So strategic priority number 2 is create welcoming spaces. Throughout 2021, we continue to seek ways to make the library more accessible. Some highlights included, we now offer wireless printing as a core service, so patrons can send their print jobs from home or from their own device, which eliminates the need to log on to one of the computers to print. We further increased our opening hours. We're now open 45 of our 53 pre-pandemic operating hours, so that's back to 85%, and we're open 6 out of our 7 pre-pandemic days. Staff capacity was also greatly increased when we were able to move the welcome desk from the lobby back inside the library in July, and we're hoping to return to 7-day operations as soon as possible. We have also made it easier to register for our events by adding QR codes to all promotional materials. The new self-check we acquired in 2020 has been working really well, and about a quarter of all checkouts are done on this. New patrons can also sign up for library cards online. They no longer need to come in person. We were also one of the libraries selected to be part of the Accessible Reading BC initiative, and this is accessible ebooks by BC publishers. We also returned to the 1980s and reinstalled a fax line to meet the clear demand that we have noticed over the last year. And we added 2 new e-readers to the collection, which has been a great opportunity to allow patrons to try ebooks without having to commit to purchasing a device themselves. Last but not least, we received a $100,000 grant through the Enabling Accessibility Fund, and we're really excited to be working with the community centre on accessibility upgrades to the building in the coming years. Public health restrictions and staffing levels really prevented us from embarking on many of the outreach initiatives that we'd hoped to do, including resuming our pop-up visits to the Learning Centre and also visits to the Lower Lake communities. But we look forward to making these initiatives happen once it's safe to do so. Next slide, please. So for us, it's vitally important that the library is recognised as a shared space for all, and we took a number of steps to further promote this in 2021. We recognised the first National Day for Truth and Reconciliation with a book giveaway. Using grant funds, we were able to distribute 75 free copies of books to individuals and families to help deepen their understanding of the current and past histories of Indigenous people's experiences. We also joined the RCMP Safe Place programme. We partnered with other key organisations such as the Pemberton Multicultural Network, New to BC, Work BC, and How Sound Women's Centre to further promote the library as a safe, welcoming place. Next slide, please. Strategic priority number 3 is live our values. So after a significant staff turnover in 2020, we were able to finally focus on strengthening the team in 2021 to better serve our patrons. Some core training that staff took this year, all staff completed the AMSSA Equity and Diversity training. We have all completed the Indigenous Awareness e-training, which is training that was developed by Bob Joseph and his team at Corporate Indigenous Training. And we've also incorporated Niche Academy into our core staff training program. And we've started to create our own online content for the team to strengthen their skills and knowledge to better serve our patrons. And finally, we introduced paid sick pay for all staff in October 2021. Next slide, please. So this is our team, and the past year wouldn't have been possible without them. We welcomed 2 new team members in 2021, Melissa and Jess, and we are now thankfully fully staffed and looking forward to further increasing services in 2022. Next slide, please. Our 4th and final strategic priority is build connections. So it has been another challenging year where we haven't seen the library utilised to the extent that we're accustomed to. We've had to navigate public health restrictions and decrease visits. Reconnecting with our patrons who have not accessed library services during the pandemic, while connecting with new patrons that are not familiar with our pre-pandemic offerings has been a focus of 2021. Examples of some of the measures we've taken include a new monthly newsletter, and that has grown in subscribers by 50% over the past year. We feature in the Chamber of Commerce newsletter and promote resources such as LinkedIn Learning to local businesses. We hosted a pop-up winter story time at North Arm Farm, and we've had outreach visits to the school, including for our Reading Link Challenge programme and our summer reading club. And we've also really focused on increasing our social media activity with strong branding. Next slide, please. So that was 2021 in a nutshell. Thinking about the year ahead, we're entering now the final year of our strategic plan, and our strategic goals remain as relevant today as they did pre-pandemic, but we're going to continue to adapt the strategies to achieve these goals according to how to best support our community. And we're going to do that by expanding our outreach initiatives, and this will feature highly in our 2022 priorities as we improve access to services and resources away from the physical library building. Isolation and disconnection have been talked about much over the past 18 months or so, and the library has a crucial role in supporting those in our community most in need. Recognizing the challenges with building access, it remains a goal to return to 7-day operation so that we can provide access to services regardless of work schedules. And we'll also continue to invest in building a strong collection that reflects the interests of our community and in the variety of formats that they prefer. Next slide, please. And so to sum up, 2021 was undoubtedly another challenging year for everyone, and we all did the best we could to navigate the many stresses and uncertainties the year presented. Keeping the library open consistently and safely so we could continue to be that essential hub for our community has been a driving force for the staff and board this past year. And it is this committee's continued support and investment in the library that has enabled us to do that. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank everyone here for supporting the Pemberton District Public Library and helping our community thrive and grow. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gillis. That was a wonderful report. Are there any comments from the committee?
Ryan?
Director Richmond, please go ahead.
Hi, this is Mayor Mike. I'm stuck on the phone today. I couldn't see the graphics, but great report, great presentation. Thank you. And I just want to acknowledge and thank you and your staff for the way you've worked under the conditions for the last couple of years and the last year that you just reported on, and the way you've adapted to provide services to folks and the diversity of services, and to thank you for bringing a very tight budget forward. It's much appreciated. Thanks for that.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Director Richmond. Are there any other comments from the other committee members?
Yeah, Chair, it's Russell. I just like to say thank you to Emma and her staff for the wonderful job they have done and continue to do, and hopefully someday we will get back to sort of normal. Anyways, thank you.
Thanks, Russell.
Thank you, Director Mack. Director Kennett.
Just have one comment other than thank you for the great job you're doing, Emma. Like, it's so integral, such a good meeting and inclusive spot within our community, and you're working very hard on keeping it even more so inclusive. I just have one comment on the graphics at the start of your presentation is about the tourism. There's just sort of a little thing about tourism, and I just thought it was maybe slightly on the negative side, being that this community in tourism is integral to the whole growth of our community and how important it is economically. And I just thought that was a little bit sort of, it just struck me as a little bit of a negative thing on tourism, being that the community wouldn't exist as it is without tourism.
Sorry, which point are you referring to?
It is the one, it's just like a little cutout where people use all the parks and tourism uses all the parks and everybody's interested in selfies or whatever. I just thought that little thing was,
Do you know which image that was? I'm not sure.
I think it was on about page 2 of the beginning of all your presentation.
Oh, those were actually referring to speaker events we had with Veronica Woodruff about landslide risk and about foraging.
Oh, I see. Okay, so it was taken out of, it's sort of an out of context thing, but as a presentation just from general public. And
okay, I understand.
That was my take on it. Actually.
Oh, I see. Sorry about that. Oh, I know what you're talking about. You're talking about the haiku. Those were the haiku entries The haiku
Okay.
contest. Yeah, we had a haiku contest and
And
that
I
was-
know there's freedom of speech, and of course, obviously, you're with the library, and I mean, I'm not saying don't take it out of there, but I'm
Oh, no,
just
I
saying,
understand. I
my
know what you're
immediate
talking about.
reaction was, oh, that's kind of negative against tourism.
Yeah, no, yeah, I now know the one you're talking about. Yeah, that was our haiku contest. Yeah, that's a fair point though.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Jen.
Janet. Yeah, my only comment, well, I have lots of comments, but they're echoed by Director Rich and Director Mack. And all I have to say is that we appreciate the leadership you've brought to the library and the staff you've built. And it echoes volumes in our other communities when people talk about the Pemberton District Library. There's several communities I've traveled to recently on holidays, and just when they say, you know, what's the hub of your community, I say, well, it's our library. So I want to say thank you for that, because you've built that with your staff. And I think you guys have done a fantastic job navigating everything that's been thrown at you in 2 years. So thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other comments from the committee? Seeing none. Thank you, Ms. Gillis. We appreciate your time today,
Thank you very much.
and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Thanks now. Thanks everyone. Bye.
Here.
Bye, Anna.
All right. Are we ready for, is it pause 3.3?
That's correct, Chair. I'll admit them now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Helmer. Hello, Ms. Scott.
Hi.
Is everybody here with your presentation?
There's Robin. Yes, I believe
Hi.
we are all here.
Fantastic. And it looks like you'll be presenting today according to the agenda.
Yes, we are presenting on behalf of PAWS.
Please.
Firstly, I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Anna, and I'm the Executive Director of Pemberton Animal Wellbeing Society. And then we have Robin here with us, who is our fundraising manager. So we're just doing our little presentation for our PDIF funding application. Yeah, so I'll start if that's all right. So I took over for Rachel Goodyear in the fall of 2018. I don't think I've met any of you, so nice to see everyone's faces. So as most of you probably know, PAWS is Pemberton's only animal shelter, and we provide shelter and veterinary care for local animals in need. We work closely with WAG and Whistler, but we do face more challenges as we are fully volunteer run and donation based at this time. PAWS has grown immensely over the past few years, as has the town of Pemberton itself. And this means that PAWS is going to have to grow with it. We've managed to build 2 wonderful insulated dog shelters with fundraising money in the past year as well. Our shelter location, oh, sorry, I skipped something there. The village of Pemberton very kindly rents us the old weather station at no cost and covers our hydro and water bills. So yeah, we managed to build 2 dog shelters. The location is wonderful, but it's definitely in need of some upgrades to keep up with how quickly we are expanding. In 2021 alone, we adopted over 50 animals. This doesn't include the animals that were spayed, neutered, and returned to their families at little or no cost. This takes a lot of money to provide these services to our local communities. This is why we are looking to receive funding for a paid part-time shelter manager position. This will relieve some pressure off our volunteers and allow us to provide services in a more timely and efficient manner, like our community really wants and needs. This funding will also go towards veterinary services, shelter supplies, repairs, and animal transport costs. As the only animal shelter in Pemberton, PAWS takes on a very high volume of animals for our size. We solely rely on volunteers to run the shelter, which can greatly affect the number of animals we can accept at any given time. This is because volunteers need to prioritize their paid jobs first in order to cover their own living expenses. This makes it so volunteers sometimes are not available at our busiest times if they're already busy with their own lives and prior commitments. So by offering a paid part-time position at the shelter, we would have someone consistently available to prioritize PAWS and the animals in our care. This would benefit the residents of Pemberton and the SLRD by providing a more reliable animal rescue service. It would provide residents with confidence that they have a reliable point of contact whenever they're seeking urgent advice or have come across an animal in need. So the shelter manager position would be responsible for managing volunteers and schedules, overseeing animal care, such as feeding, water, exercise, taking to the vet as required, cleaning, etc., managing adoptions, so advertising animals currently available for adoptions, vetting applicants, finding suitable homes for every animal in our care, handling administrative tasks such as keeping records of rural animals, filing, responding to inquiries, and managing social media accounts, general upkeep and maintenance of the shelter, and then any other random tasks that need to be actioned. So if PAWS receives this funding, it would be our only sole current funding. We will provide funding updates if and when applicable. We hope that by being offered the PDIF funding, the shelter manager could take some responsibilities away from our volunteers, in turn freeing up some volunteer time to research and apply for other funding and grants for long term. So PAWS was established in 2008 to provide support and relief to animals in need. Our key goals are to provide immediate support to local animals, provide emergency veterinary care to local animals without owners, offer second chances to animals that are no longer suitable for their environments, provide a well-run adoption service for locals looking to adopt a new family member, and provide advice and support to community members seeking general help regarding their animals. So PAWS currently serves the village of Pemberton along with surrounding communities such as Mount Currie, Naquaqua, Birkin, Darcy, and other remote communities down the Lake Road. Sometimes we even help Squamish, Whistler, and Lillooet, depending on how full their shelters are. And Lillooet doesn't even have a shelter, so we help them sometimes. This program is expected to benefit approximately 5,500 to 6,000 residents, bearing in mind that those statistics were taken from the 2016 Canada Census, and I know we've grown since then. So if we don't receive long-term funding through PDIF, we'll continue to face staffing challenges as our volunteers will not be able to prioritize PAWS over their paying jobs and lives. This presents challenges when keeping up with daily tasks around the shelter, shelter maintenance, responding to inquiries both over email and social media, and ensuring adoptions are handled in an efficient and timely manner. Without funding, we will have to continue turning away animals in need due to lack of time, resources, and staff to tend to the animals. Should funding be denied, we will try and seek out donations from larger businesses in the community for items such as a new trailer, possibly building supplies, pet care supplies, etc. And we would also look into hosting another large fundraiser on top of the one we already do. So that's kind of a summary. Kind of concludes our presentation. Hope that covers everything.
Yes, thank you very much for your presentation.
No worries.
Are there any questions from the committee members?
Yeah, it's Russell here. Once again, I'd just like to say, thank you to all you folks that do this. It's a wonderful thing for our community area.
Thank you.
My wife was involved with it originally, and yeah, it's just a wonderful thing. So I appreciate what you guys do. And
thanks
I'm sure
so much.
everybody else.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Mack. Director Kennedy, I saw you had your hand up.
Yeah, good job, you guys. I mean, it's really important to animal welfare in our community for sure. Just a question, have you guys considered, there seems to be a lot of private sector folks getting into dog walking and trail dogs and all of that I'm seeing out there, and it might be just a great idea to partnership fundraising with some of the folks that have gone into the private sector with animal well-being. Just an idea. Anyways.
For sure.
Thank you for that. That's definitely an avenue we're looking to pursue further this year, and hopefully get a few more sort of smaller annual events up and running as well, with partnering with local businesses as well.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Director Richmond, just wanted to check to make sure if you had something to say or not.
Yeah, thanks for that, Ryan. And just ditto on the comments from the other directors. Thank you so much for that work that you guys are doing, and I think it's a great job. So thanks for all your efforts. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. My own comments are echoing the same. I mean, the Pemberton Animal Wellness Society is a huge asset for our community, and the help that you offer to the animals that have no homes is fantastic. So we appreciate it. I know the outerland communities appreciate it, and I appreciate that you brought up the other communities that you're serving as well, as I had not thought of those, especially outerland communities down Lake Road, Mount Currie, Quaquat. So thank you for bringing that to my attention. I had not considered that.
Yeah, no worries.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? Seeing none, I'll say thank you very much, and look forward to hearing from you again.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. So we're on to 3.4, the Wellness Society with Miss Richardson.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'll admit her.
Thank you. The Wellness Almanac. I apologize. Good afternoon, Ms. Richardson. So we're on to 3.4. 3.4, correct.
Hi, I'm like switching screens from watching you streaming to being in the room. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Just to let you know, we have Director Richmond, Director Mack are on via phone, and Director Kennett and I are on video. So please go ahead.
Great, thanks everybody. I do have a presentation. I wonder if staff could pull it up for me to just walk through and give you a bit of an overview of how the Wellness Almanac has gone over the past year. Thank you. Yeah, so if we go to the first slide, basically I just wanted to sort of recap quickly for you all, and it's a beautiful opportunity for me too to like stop and pause and be like, okay, are we delivering on what we want to be delivering on? How could we do better? What are the strengths and opportunities that are facing us? Obviously this year, I think for everybody has been like such a challenge, like the past year. This is for 2020, so thanks for letting us report in on this now. Yes, like a lot of adaptation was required. I mean, as you guys know, the SLOD had 100 days of an emergency operations center running. So we started the year with all these great ideas of things that we could do to sort of support the core work of the Wellness Almanac as a daily blog. And, you know, a lot of those ideas that I was super excited about just weren't feasible in the end. Like I applied for funding from several other granting agencies to host sharing circles online. And those granting agencies then moved into like crisis mode where they were basically funding food banks. You know, that was sort of where all their emergency funding needed to be deployed to. So something like an online sharing circle talking about racism and reconciliation just didn't bubble up in those needs. Or we sort of hoped to hold some online gatherings of social health organizations so we could get a bit of a pulse of what was happening in the community. But everybody was so taxed this year responding to like actual immediate emergencies. We just sort of like moved that to like when things calm down, and there was no pause, like it never really calmed down. So there are a few things that we were really excited about doing in the past year that have moved over to this year. That's one of the reasons why I particularly want to say thank you for the long-term funding, because it gives us the chance to be like, the timing for this is not right. Let's just wait until it's a better opportunity. And so a big part of the way we've like adapted to things this year has been to try and be as opportunistic as possible and exploring like what the new landscape looks like. It feels like our region is in a state of flux, and so the entities that might have previously been like obvious partners for us to go to for matching funding, for example, so like the Whistler Blackcomb Foundation or the Community Foundation of Whistler, who we did reach out to, it doesn't feel like that makes the most sense now, because I think there's still going to be funding like crisis level, you know, food banks and those kind of things for the next little while. So we're like, okay, where can we start to develop some other relationships? And we've had some really great successes in developing relationships with the Whistler Pemberton Literacy Table. and a few other sort of like smaller organizations that are maybe don't even have a formal status yet, but are bubbling up. So that's kind of one of the exciting things and opportunities that's going on. If we skip forward, this is sort of like a bit of a basic summary. One of those challenges of the past year was it took quite a long time for us to kind of get the funding was approved, but it took quite a long time for us to get the sort of contract dialed in and actually get the funding, that it didn't come in until towards the end of the year. And so that meant that some of the other initiatives that I was really excited about in terms of commissioning work from other Indigenous content creators, the funding wasn't in the bank to be able to do that. So there was a lot of relationship developing. We've got sort of a poet in residence potentially coming on board, some photographers that I'd like to work with. So I've done some of the relationship building to move that into play this year. But I didn't have the money in the pocket to actually be able to commission people apart from our Instagram editor who I have an ongoing relationship with. So I just paid that out of my pocket until the funding actually came in. So it's just I think that's part of the 2021 story of like, there's capacity issues everywhere and everybody's doing their best, and sometimes things take a little bit longer. That said, we were able to like continue with the core programming, which is to deliver this daily website like as a central hub for the community. That was, you know, that happened. So yeah, 365 posts generating around 3,000 views a month. We went through like, there's probably, I like audited the content for the year, and there was like 50 different community groups whose events and news that they want to share was amplified through the Wellness Almanac. And then sort of one of the in terms of the time tracking, like some of the funding applications to secure, like granting applications to secure matching funding, and working to expand the team and try and diversify things. So there's probably 30% more time that's gone into managing the Wellness Almanac last year than over previous years. And part of that has been, you know, some of the process around funding accountability. Into the next slide, please. So yeah, this is just sort of a little bit of a summary of like, you know, some of those like partnerships and explorations that we've been involved in. One of the things that was exciting is I undertook like a 6-week online learning course with Dayan Transform, which is an Indigenous created online course exploring Canadian history through the lens of Indigenous women. And I've done like the UBC MOOC and the Alberta MOOC, like what are the ways as settlers we can educate ourselves and to kind of decolonize our thinking and understand really kind of like what Indigenous people are like what they're dealing with, or the history that they're coming from, or like what the Indian Act really means, all those sort of education pieces that are on us, but it's not easy necessarily to do. This course is really fantastic, and I explored it with a view of maybe offering it as kind of a Wellness Almanac programming, and was part of a learning circle of some community members who were also undertaking that study. And there's still conversations underway about whether, you know, my hope was like maybe it would be something that we'd encourage like the Rotary to sign up for, and book clubs to sign up for, and sort of different groups in the community to like commit to doing this program and uplift an Indigenous woman who's the content creator behind that. And as I've explored that sort of possibility a little bit more for like, could we run that this year and like promote that out in the community, I've learned that Tazeel Learning Centre and the Whistler Institute and Lillooet Nation and Squamish Nation have been part of putting together their own curriculum. And so some of the ongoing exploration for this year would be like, well, should we put our energy behind amplifying something that's like really regionally based and created and hasn't really been put out into the community yet. So let's watch this space for that. Next page, please. And then, you know, some of our partnership successes, and really I feel like the strength of the Wellness Almanac and its offering is that it really does need to serve all of the community groups in the region and be this sort of like an online hub for sharing what's going on. Like if we have sort of roughly 1,500 to 2,000 followers, either through the blog subscription or through, you know, following through WordPress or Facebook or any of other social channels, we can help amplify all the work that different community groups are doing, especially if they don't have like a full-time communications person, you know, helping them out. And so we've been able to do that through a host of different things. You know, like through the summer months, we had like week-long takeovers. So Tourism Pemberton spent the week showcasing, oh, cool local places to go and visit or places to feature. We helped amplify the Slow Food Cycle video series. We worked with the SLRD's regional economic business liaison to like publicize different things that were going on through there, Sea to Sky invasive species. We worked with the Naquatqua Childcare Centre and their language revitalization work to really amplify that in this beautiful t-shirt project that they had going on. We're just trying to uplift some of the amazing things that are happening in the community and make sure like everybody knows about them. And, you know, even kind of ending the year in sort of getting behind and promoting this last minute pop-up treasure and trade fair that happened at the community centre, at the community barn. Next one, please. So I guess sort of, or can we go back one, please? Do you want to get through? Oh yeah, thank you. So it's sort of, there's probably three main themes of really what we're focusing on, and I think probably what the focus will be for this year as well. And they would be relationships, reconciliation, and resilience. And so I spoke a little bit about the relationships and the way we're trying to diversify, like where our sort of allegiances and alliances are and how we can help people. And the literacy table is such a great example of that. Like we're going to be working together to put on a wool weaving workshop in partnership with the library. We worked with them last year to develop a sign that still is yet to be installed, like a decolonizing Mount Curry. So a sign that like a Indigenous, a Lillooet woman has written that'll be installed on the Friendship Trail, and it will kind of tell the story of Mount Curry like from an Indigenous perspective. And we're going to continue sort of coming up with like things like that that are at that grassroots level that we can collaborate on. In terms of reconciliation, I feel like this past year has been such a pivotal one for that conversation at a national level. And I'm super grateful that Amanda Ritchie has been our Instagram editor. This is sort of a way of introducing her. Like she's just like such a talented and thoughtful writer and photographer. And these are the kind of photos that she's been posting. This is sort of a little snapshot. And then in introducing herself and sharing, like she's Lillooet, her mother's Lillooet, she doesn't know her father, she's a foster child, she went to school here. She's such an incredible poet, and I'm so grateful for the contributions that she makes, and that this commitment to uplifting Indigenous voices and giving them space is now part, like officially part of what the Wellness Almanac is doing. And I guess, how they said, like 2021 was such a disruptive year for everybody, especially people who are living in more vulnerable situations. And honestly, being a writer is kind of a vulnerable thing to do. And if you don't have the support of like pretty solid housing and are well-resourced, that vulnerability can take its toll. And so part of this Instagram editing role is that it has the fluidity for Amanda to be able to like come in and out when she's got the capacity to put herself out there, and then kind of retract when she needs to. And everything that she has offered in this space, I've learned such an incredible amount from. And it's really helped me personally on my journey to become more aware of my own racism or the limits of my own understanding. So I just really wanted to call that out and lift her up for the contributions that she's been making through our channels. And on our next page, this was just something that had really inspired me, like through the pandemic, even in 2020, this idea that connection in community is so key on so many levels, like as an antidote to racism or disinformation, which we've seen so much of through COVID responses, as a protective factor with respect to addiction or mental health. And it's kind of this key to Indigenous wellness as well. And I think in the next slide, I wanted to share, like, I mean, this year we saw the revelations around all the grave sites, or the, not even grave sites, like the residential school. Unmarked graves. And if we can click through to the next slide, it's been kind of a reckoning, I think, for all of us. And one of the things that I felt coming out of that has been like, there's sort of a position I think that could be taken of like, okay, come on, everybody, wake up. You can't be racist anymore. Get on with the show. But my sense of things is that like this reckoning of an urgent need for people in power with privilege, typically white-bodied, you know, in the world that we're living in, to confront the impacts of systemic racism and colonization. It's so urgent and critical, and it's kind of on all of us. But interestingly, because we've been the people who have succeeded in capitalism and those systems really are about extracting you from any kind of real meaningful community so that you're a really successful consumer and not having any sense of your own ancestry or your own roots really, or being deracinated from your, you know, like your actual cultural heritage, wherever that might be, like however many 100 years back it is, that in some ways we're actually the least capable of doing that work. We're the least resourced to do that work. And so I really felt that, and I hope this doesn't offend anybody, this is sort of really coming out of my own personal reflection, but I've really felt that any sort of anti-racism work that we want to sort of put out there in the community has to be matched with this sort of quite caring and supportive self-care, especially now because everybody is under stress. Like we can't just sort of say, hey, everybody wake up, stop being so racist. So like, hey, there's roots to this which come from like, you know, trauma for all of us. And so we've really made a huge effort with the Wellness Amnesty this year to be very, like we could have been more strident. I think that could have been an option to just be like, okay, this is our time. Let's kind of like be these really strident anti-racist content providers. But because our core is to be community builders in this region, you know, and find all of those like points of contact and tentacles of connection between everybody, we've taken a much softer approach and a more generous approach, I guess, which is sort of to understand that for every sort of like let's confront racism piece of content that we share kind of has to be matched with self-care, community support, mental health, because people need to have the actual resources and the resilience to be like, oh yeah, systems do need to be changed, and we do need to confront this. We have to come from it with actually some sense of resourcing. So that's been a little bit of the work we've been trying to do. So we'd have, like Erin Stewart Elliott, who lives in Quatqua and who works with the Lower Lake communities and at Capilano University, did this wonderful takeover for us, sort of sharing her journal entry every day. Well, she shared her journal entry of kind of like acknowledging the grief that she was feeling around the discovery of those 215 children after the first revelation, and how she didn't quite know what to do with that because she didn't want to take it to her Indigenous friends. No, and then she was able to expand on that in a week-long takeover, sharing her art and exploring what does it mean to be a settler. So we've really tried to create a grassroots space for people to explore reconciliation in a very tangible and practical and personal way without shaming anybody. So that's kind of the reconciliation piece, and part of that is like, oh, should we be encouraging people to sign on for some kind of an online learning seminar that we could do in community together to help us like decolonize our own minds and learn a little bit more about Canadian history and what our neighbors have gone through, and what systems they're actually living under, and how fundamentally different they are from, I sort of sometimes think about that, like I'm protected every day by the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and my neighbors and my kids' school friends and schoolmates are actually not, because they're living under the Indian Act, and it's like fundamentally dehumanizing. So I feel like there's a space for us to learn, but in as generous a way as we possibly can. And then I guess if we click forward to the next one, the other piece that I wanted to share, that's relationships, reconciliation, and then resilience. And it feels like resilience is like just such an important theme for us as a region right now, like the economic resilience coming out of COVID, all of our emotional resilience, our environmental resilience to sort of emergencies and natural hazards and climate change, And so we're looking at ways that the content that we're putting out there and then the programming that supports that can really help grow our resilience, to come together and not to fracture apart, and to support each other, and to, I guess, like find a way to navigate like these crazy times that we're in. They're kind of crazy. This is a quick overview of the content from the past year. So I just had gone through and looked at like, what are all the posts that we're putting out there, and audited them. Like, you know, what this is sort of like a third of it roughly is sort of editorial that covers that, like mental health and wellness, racism, as like really most explicit themes that happened this year. 29% were devoted to promoting community organizations and local news or events. So there were more than 50 different groups and associations that were highlighted. And then another 5% were dedicated to support the village of Pemberton or the SLOD specific topics. 18% were Indigenous authored content that was like explicitly amplifying Indigenous voices. And then one of the things that I just thought, wow, this is a little insight that we get when I get to like look behind the scenes at what's been downloaded. A huge success I felt like was there were 1,100 downloads of like Ukumooch language audio files, because we'd sometimes share words or share language and be like, oh, this is how you pronounce this word in Ukumooch. So 1,100 downloads of those files of people being like, okay, I want to know this. Like I feel really exhilarated by that, because, you know, like my dream is that the revitalization of St'át'imc and Ukumooch language through the region would happen. It would, like, we'll all be able to like hear and share that language, you know, as we move through this region. And then the other more sobering statistic was that we had 55 downloads of the suicide prevention toolkits that were developed a bunch of years ago. So we hadn't gone out of our way to actually promote those. They're like in the archives. So I really feel like that's sort of telling, and there's a host of them. There's some sort of suicide prevention toolkits for teenagers, for parents, for caregivers, for therapists. I think they're sort of for different, you know, like people coming. So, you know, it may have been potentially somebody came and downloaded from 4 different angles, but I just felt like that is what has amplified this importance of resilience, of focusing on resilience with our content, and being as supportive as we can towards people's mental health, because that felt like a bit of an indicator for me of something that's going on in our community that we might not necessarily be seeing if we're not, you know, frontline service workers or in certain fields. Could you skip forward for the next one, please? Oh yeah, so this was kind of like a bit of a personal audit. Like I'm like, oh, am I serving the community? Am I covering, you know, am I like, am I getting out of my own little bubble? I guess is kind of like the interrogation that I always have. You know, is this just Lisa in her room doing her own thing, or am I actually kind of like serving the community in the work that I do? So this is sort of a list of the community groups or organizations or events that were profiled, or their events or, you know, different things that they had going on were being amplified and supported and promoted through the Wellness Almanac and our channels. And then the next page shows that specifically the Indigenous voices of different individuals and groups, and days on the calendar, or things that we should be observing. We move forward to the next one. Oh, these were our week-long theme takeovers. So this is really sort of me being like, okay, did I manage to cover a lot of bases here? Have we sort of like included as many voices as possible? It's always my challenge and my desire to make sure it is a representative, and that we're out sort of exploring and trying to like speak for the community, to the community, with the community. Please skip to the next one. And yeah, this was sort of a bit of a snapshot. We did host a sharing circle after so we hosted 5 different sharing circles. So I guess to sort of flip back to this, we had hoped to fund Nina Williams to run sharing circles through the library, and we weren't successful with that grant application. But we did host 5 different sharing circles through the course of the year, including this one that was showing up for racial justice, kind of a settler response to the Kamloops Indian Residential School revelation. And my personal sense is that these sort of like opportunity to come together in this sort of intentional way in a held space to discuss hard topics is really supportive and incredibly meaningful. And so we'll be looking for ways to explore that this year as well, whether that's in partnership with an organization like the library, whether the topic, or like a teacher like Tanina, whether it's a topic that's like climate like climate resilience and climate change and dealing with sort of your emotions and climate change, or whether it's more overtly towards reconciliation, racial justice. We shall see. But again, you know, big plans, and then try and be super smart and opportunistic. And one of the big projects that we're embarking on in partnership with the Pemberton Whistler Literacy Table is to do like a resilience pulse check of our community. And so to gather some people in a room together and do a bit of a scan and a community needs assessment of sort of what people are seeing and what's going on and what needs are out there. It's particularly informed by a need to make sure that like programming meets people's needs. Like, do we know what people's needs are right now? And what, you know, we've got limited capacity in the community and limited resources. So can we make sure that we're not like overlapping each other or, you know, not supporting each other? So the literacy table is like this great table because there's so much representation on it, from like the libraries throughout the corridor, to Zil Learning Centre, the school pack, the Hatola School, the Multicultural Society, like there's a whole group of people there. So it gives us a really good opportunity to kind of like dive in and be like, what needs are we seeing? And does it make any sense for us to put on this online program if the Squamish-Lillooet Cultural Centre and the Whistler Library are also doing it? And, you know, there's really 20 people in the entire community who are going to have the capacity to sign on to do a 3-week thing. Like, let's make sure that we're kind of harnessing our efforts together. And then this was just a quick look at some of the highlighted Facebook posts, because I find that's an interesting one to see what's resonating with our community. And so some of the ones that were really successful in the past year were this great post that Veronica Woodruff did for us about emergency preparedness and kind of understanding the river system and what it means for us, which had like 1,451 views. People were like, thank you very much, we really want to see that. Mental health during COVID, 400 views. A suicide awareness post, 350 views. And then this fantastic series of photographs that Brittany Andrew had taken from with a bunch of young Lillooet girls for murdered and missing Indigenous women. And she gave us permission to share those, and we did sort of like a week-long takeover and series with some interviews with her and some backstory to it. And it really resonated super widely. So I feel really proud of having been able to showcase that and uplift that work on the behalf of like Brittany and the girls. So that's where we're at, moving steadily forward and trying to make the world a better place. That's all.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening.
I'm happy to hear your report. So thanks very much. The work you're doing is amazing.
Oh, thank you, Ryan.
Is there any of the directors on the phone that would like to comment?
Yeah,
I'll
Ryan.
just thank you very much for all your time and effort.
Thank you, Director Mack. Director Richmond, I think I heard you in there.
Yeah, pardon me. Hey, Lisa, it's Mayor Mike here. Unfortunately, the sun came out, but I guess it meant my internet scrappy today, so I couldn't see your presentation. I'm on the phone, but I was listening carefully, and thank you so much for that, and for some of the thoughtfulness you brought forward in your presentation. And we're very appreciative that the Almanac continues to be a space for a safe space, I feel, for reconciliation, for healing, for knowledge, for mental health, for all of that. And I'm happy to hear, as you talked about early in the presentation, that you're really working with other partners. I love the idea that the Almanac become more and more of a hub or a place where, like you say, you can amplify some of the activities going on out in the community, be it, again, reconciliation-based activities, community event activities, wellness, general wellness, mental health. I think that the Almanac can be more and more of a hub for that sort of thing. So thanks for all that and for all your efforts. And I'm sorry I couldn't see you, but we'll talk soon. Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks, Mike, and thank you, Russell. I appreciate it. It's I appreciate the support for it, because yeah, it's slow work, right? It's sort of, you know, upstream heart-changing work is slow work, and it's easy to see results when you're and when you're doing important things like picking dogs up off the street or feeding, putting a grocery bag in people's hands. Like, that's important, it's obviously important and essential. And so I appreciate the kind of leap of faith that you're taking in investing in this, because it's harder to see and it's harder to measure. But I think sometimes that upstream work is what hopefully leads to having fewer bodies to pull out of the river downstream, right?
Thank you. Director Mack, I believe I cut you off there. Is there something else you want to add?
No, that's fine. I can hear everything fine. Thank you.
Director Kennedy, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yes, I just want to thank you, Lisa, for the work that you're doing. I think it's so important, and I really support this organization. I have just one comment. My grandfather, who was one of the first Indigenous men to graduate from the University of British Columbia back in the 1920s, I believe, I had a serious conversation with him in the 1970s. Now I'm, telling everybody my age here, but he told me he thought it was going to take 7 generations to heal. And I guess at that time I was about 16. So there's probably 4 generations after mine. And within the communities, right? All of the communities to heal. After reading your presentation and listening, I was just, this seems to be very women focused. And is there a reason for that? Or I'm not hearing much of the male role in this almanac so much. So I'm just wondering, is there a reason for that, or just a question?
That's such an interesting observation, Jan. I wasn't aware of it, but it's a blind spot, right? And thank you for sharing about your grandfather. I didn't know that. That's in terms of like, where are you seeing the lack of men? Like, I mean, there's more for sure. Probably our content creators skew more women. Not necessarily amongst the photographers that we've worked with over the years, but most of the posts are. But where are you seeing that as a bias?
Just an observation, as because I'm not going online very much. I'm not a very good technical person, but just from the presentation online here today, it seemed very women focused and about women, and which I'm all for, don't get me wrong, but there's a huge community of resources out there in the gender that could be maybe drawn on to give more balance, is all I'm saying. Just an observation. It's not a criticism as such.
No, thank you. That's something I'll reflect on for sure. Like as I post things, I'll be like, oh, is this inclusive in the way that I want it to be?
Thank you. And just one further comment is just, I appreciate your leadership in this program. Your passion definitely shows through to your work and your in the site. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ryan.
So important. Keep it up, girl.
Really is. If there's no more comments from the committee, we'll say goodbye to Ms. Richardson and say thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
All right. Ms. Helmer, is there, just looking at the agenda here, we dealt with 7, 8, 9, and 6, 4. Are we, unless I'm missing something, are we looking for a motion to adjourn?
We would be back to 6.3, Chair.
Thank you. Right. So 6.3, information report in regards to the Pemberton District Initiative Fund. Anybody want
6.4, sorry, 6.4.
Oh, 6.4.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's correct. Yes. And we have Ms. Campbell here.
Thank you. So Ms. Campbell, are you going to present for the direct request for direction on the funding request for pause?
Yes, of course. So Philippa Campbell, Project and Research Coordinator. This report before you is related to the presentation that you saw earlier. Item 3.3. It's a request for funding through the Pemberton and District Initiative Fund from Pemberton Animal Wellbeing Society. My apologies. So this application came in as part of the October intake, for which you have already seen and provided your recommendations on for the other applicants. PAWS was not able to make that December date, so they're presenting slightly later. And I'm just mentioning it here because to provide context that they were actually part of that intake. And this committee has already made their recommendations to the board, and the board has approved those. And just to remind the committee, with all of the new applications to the arts, culture and recreation stream, the fund was not able to support all of the applications through the long-term applications. It was oversubscribed and was not sustainable. So the committee decided to go ahead for the other applicants with 1-year funding terms for the amounts requested. So this is just kind of bringing, just ensuring that this would have been considered at that time had the applicants been available. And so as you'll see in here, we have the summary of what the request is. So they are looking for long-term, PAWS are looking for long-term funding, $15,000 per year for 5 years from the arts, culture and recreation stream to support a part-time shelter manager and other operating costs. And staff have provided a couple of options here for recommendations to the SLRD board regarding this funding. The first one being option 1, which is to bring the funding to align PAWS with the other 2022 funding applications, which would be for a 1-year term for the amount that they have requested. The second option is to approve the funding as they have requested it for the 5 years. And then we have, option 3, approve with other modifications, or option 4, do not approve the funding. Attached are all of the application documents that they had submitted as well. So I am happy to take any questions from the committee.
Great, thank you, Ms. Campbell. Any questions from the committee members? Hearing
No questions.
there doesn't sound like no, there doesn't sound like there's any questions, Mayor Richmond, unless you had something to add.
No questions. My comment, I guess, would be that, or suggestion would be that we go ahead with 1-year funding, like we did with the others, as we move towards figuring out our funding capacity for upcoming years. So, my suggestion.
Thank you, Mayor Richmond. Director Youngler. If there's no other questions or comments, Director Richmond, would you like to make that motion?
I would.
Okay, so the motion on the table is to approve 1-year funding for PAWS. Is there a seconder?
I'll second that.
A second by Director Mack. Go ahead, Ms. Clark.
Thanks, Chair. So that's for $15,000 for a 1-year term. Is that correct?
That is the way I understand the motion, yes.
Thank you.
So we had a we had a motion on the table and a seconder. I'll call the question. All opposed? Motion carries.
Just a quick question. I know we talked about it last time. As we're getting back to applicants, and I'm assuming we're explaining why we're going with the 1-year term as opposed to their requests. yeah, I just, I know it's tough for these organizations. They'd love to know that they have some longer term funding so that they can move ahead with plans, but I just want to make sure they understand why we've chosen to go this route.
Thank you, Director Richmond. Go ahead, Ms. Campbell.
Yes, through the chair, we are certainly providing explanations that the committee has recommended a 1 year rather than a full term due to sustainability. And we're always happy we can answer more questions if people are coming up with those responses. So far, people are very appreciative. For those that have been approved by the board, are very appreciative of the funding. And certainly, as the recordings of the discussion are available as well, we can also able to refer people to the recording so they can see how that decision was come to as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Campbell. Director Richmond, does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And like I said, I just want, in case people walk away with questions thinking that there's other reasons we haven't gone with the long-term funding for them. So I'm happy with that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If there's no other questions, Ms. Clark, or try to remember where we're at here. So 6.4, 6.5, or did we take care of 6.5?
We did take care of 6.5, but I believe I interrupted the calling of the question when I put my hand up to clarify the amount.
The motion was approved.
It was, okay, thank you.
All right. So, just so I don't get ahead of myself here again,
Thanks, Chair. Just item 11, which is a motion to adjourn, please.
Adjourn. All right. Can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Thank you, Director Kennett. Thank you, Director Mack. All opposed? We're adjourned.